Yes people, what's going on? Welcome back to another video on the channel. This is 5 things we learnt from Bayern Munich 4, Chelsea 1, 7-1 on aggregate. Hope you guys are enjoying these videos. If you are, please make sure you smash the likes, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. Let's get straight into the video. It wasn't a good night, so I want to get this over and done with as soon as possible. Number 1, Emerson needs to go. Now I like him going forward, but I'm fed up with him defensively. He was at fault for 2 of the goals last night. He did not have a good game at all. And I know obviously he's second choice behind Alonso, and Alonso of course was suspended, but he had to play the full game, and if that's what's going to start a full game for us, then I'm just not seeing it at all. I have to say as well, it's probably the one that we're going to get more money for as well. Alonso, how much is he going to be worth because of his age, his pace? You don't really know. Where Emerson, you can at least get 20 million for. I just think he's got to be the person to go. In the 4 goals that Bayern scored, Emerson was at fault for 3 of them. The first one he was at fault for was the second goal, which is probably slightly harsh, but he was miles away. He pushed upfield, trying to go forward, and then get back in time. It left a clear tap in for Perisic. The 3rd and 4th goals in the game, he got outdone by Tolisso, who just ran into the box unmarked. And for the 4th goal, he found himself at right back in some weird chain of events. Got out-jumped at the back post by Lewandowski, who just had this perfect header back across goal. I get that he's one of the best strikers in Europe, but if Chelsea want to be the elite team that we are looking to be, that needs to go. I like Emerson, I must be honest. I do think he offers a fair bit going forward. We're actually going to go cross every now and again, but he's not worth keeping around. You can get 20 million for him, then it's got to be the end of the road for you. Sorry mate, it's just one of those things. Number 2, Zuma is a sub at best. Now I like Zuma again, but I don't think he covered himself in glory last night. He was definitely at fault for the Perisic goal. I get that obviously he's had his injury and stuff with his ACL, and it's obviously gutting. I've actually done my ACL as well. It's a horrible injury to have to try and come back from, but simply put, Zuma is not the same player that he was a fair few years ago. The fact that he is our best choice centre-half still doesn't exactly cover our defensive line in glory. Literally just before I started filming this, I got a message from Cheeky Sport Joel, and he just literally sent me this and said, Chelsea have conceded 79 goals in all competitions in the 2019-20 season, an average of 1.44 per game, the worst ratio since 1990-1991. Now obviously we finished top 4, so it still doesn't make that much of a difference, but it also, if that doesn't highlight our defensive problems, I don't know what will. Zuma is good, he's okay, but he is not a starter. If you want to go and be the best team in Europe, as that's obviously should always be the goal, he's not a starter. He's a squad player, but he's not a starter. And if he's meant to be the best one of our centre-backs, then it kind of says a lot about, especially the other 2. Tomorrow I'm going to give a little bit of stick because he hasn't played that much. But the other 2, you think that's pretty much curtains, whether you want to admit it or not. They need to both move on, and Zuma then becomes a squad player, on the bench, cup games, all that kind of jazz. But not a lot more than that. We need 2 proper centre-halves to come in, because Zuma playing centre-half, even next to a world-class centre-half, isn't going to be the final product that we're after. It's a long way off sorting, but it needs to start now. Number 3, I will criticise him. Mason Mount is not a winger. Now I know he obviously played wide for a particular reason last night, which I will come into, but the problem still stands. He's not a wide player. He's very good at pressing, and I liked him when he was playing wide against Man United because he could press and he could put the pressure on, but he didn't manage to put the pressure on against David Luiz last week either. Did it once and we actually almost paid off, but then it just kind of stopped. For me, as much as I'm a big fan of Mason Mount, I think he's been knackered for the last 2-3 games of the season. And I know obviously he had a worldie of a game against Wolves, but he scored a set piece and Giroud managed to very cheekily finish it off. So it obviously reads in on the stats and on the papers as a goal and an assist, but actually I still don't think he was electric in that game. I think he's been good, and for me he's been one of Chelsea's best players all season, but the problem is still there. He's knackered. And again, he played wide right, and again I end up on the left-hand side somehow last night, which was a weird chain of events again. But he played there because we had no one else. The squad depth needs to be addressed, fine, fair enough, but Mason Mount was absolutely knackered. For me, I wouldn't have played him at all. I'd have tried to suit the formation with whatever we had. I think we all pretty much knew we weren't going to go through, but to play Mason Mount, who's played every single game for Chelsea this season and has been absolutely knackered, also managed to play 90 minutes somehow, I have no idea how, but again, he played 90 minutes and he just did not have anywhere near the production rate that we know that he can have. He just looked lost last night, especially against Davis. It just was never going to win it, especially with Davis next to Alaba as well. It was just never going to happen for him. He was honestly completely wasted out there on the right hand side. He needs to play an attacking midfield role, which would be absolutely fine, and eventually I think he's going to turn into a number 8 box-to-box midfielder, but wide on the right hand side it just does not work. It works maybe when you're trying to take people by surprise, but they saw it coming and they dealt with it absolutely perfectly. it needs to change. Mason Mount is not a winger. As much as I love him and I think he's going to be one of the big stars for the future, he's not a right winger. Number 4, we're miles off the end product. Now, people's opinions of end product is completely different, that's fair enough. Mine is that we should be one of the best teams in Europe. We should be looking to win the Champions League again. That should always be the goal. We are a long way off that, and that's fine, and we're accepting that, that's not a problem. But you look at how well Bayern did last night, and we also have to be real with ourselves here. Alaba is not a first choice centre-half. And obviously, Boateng went off as well, and Sulla, I can never say his name, I think it's Sul. He came onto the pitch, looked absolutely comfortable, and actually cracked a shot off from about 25-30 yards, hit the target, and troubled Caballero, to be fair. That is the second choice centre-half. The right back who came on as well, I can't remember his name, I do apologise. He managed to get the goal, he managed to get the assist for Lewandowski's goal. That's quality all over the pitch, and even on the bench. That's quality, that's what you want to do as the best sides in Europe. But simply put, is we had no way to deal with it at all. And again, we know this is because of suspensions and because of injuries and because of a multitude of things. We were never going to go and win this game, but we could have won on the night, potentially. It obviously didn't start that well. We then went 2-0 down. The goal was disallowed for offside, which I have seen and is offside. I tried to say last night in a video that I wanted to see it again. I have seen it, it is offside. That's fair enough. But we then couldn't deal with the second wave. It was actually quite a close contested game for quite a while. Tolisso obviously comes on, gets a goal, and then the fullback comes on and gets an assist. It's one of those things, but Chelsea obviously need to freshen up and we need to do a lot, and the fact that we only used one sub last night is really quite alarming. But the point still stands. There's a lot of dead wood in this team that needs to go, and some of the players that started last night are going to turn into bench players. As much as I've been a massive fan of Kovacic, I've seen a fair few people on Twitter saying that what does he actually offer to the team, what does he do with this, what does he do with that. I think it's probably slightly harsh, but again, the sort of performances need to improve. Could Kovacic turn into a player that you see on the bench week in, week out? I don't know. It's just one of those things that needs to improve. There's a lot that Chelsea are doing right, but we still need to be that elite calibre. Of course, we've signed Werner, and of course we've signed Ziyech, which is great, but we still need centre-halves. It's all good going forward, and Chelsea are scoring goals, and that's going back to what the message from Joel was about. We still manage to get top 4 because we are scoring goals. But if we're leaking them at the other end, what hope have we got? What hope have we got? Bayern are a good side, and maybe this is slightly harsh coming against this in this particular game, but we need to be better, because even when Bayern brought on subs, they look quality. They look better than some of the players that we had starting on the pitch. It was just a bit of a mad one for me, but we're a mile off, and it's okay as long as we accept it and realise that there needs to be massive changes, which massively should revolve around the back 4 and the keeper. Things just need to change. If we accept it, then it's fine, but just accept it, Chelsea fans. A lot of these players that you're seeing in this team are going to have to move on. Even this year, next year, the following year. The likes of Kante, I love him, but is he part of Chelsea's future? I don't think so. Could we get 80 million quid for him? Yes, we can. We'd be mad not to take it. It's going to be a very new look Chelsea team in a handful of years. Just accept it now. We are miles away from where we need to be. Number 5, Frank prefers to play a 4-3-3. Chelsea had massive problems in midfield. We had injury concerns, we had suspensions, we had absolutely everything. There was ginormous problems with Chelsea midfield. You had Mount, who had to play wide on the right hand side, which we all anticipated, but I would prefer to have done something different. You then had to play Barkley, Kovacic and Kante, because Gilmore's out, and obviously you've got Ruben Loftus-Cheek out, and you've got Jorginho suspended. We played 3 in midfield, but we yet still had 2 centre-halves on the bench in Rudiger and Tomori. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to start Rudiger or Tomori or whatever. I'm not going to say you start one or the other, but realistically, we have Reece James, who is an attacking fullback. You have Emerson, who is an attacking fullback, and you then could play a back 3, and it would just make a hell of a lot more sense and give you a hell of a lot more freedom. You could have rested Mason Mount, maybe played Barkley wide on the right hand side, see what he could have done there, because again, let's be honest, we weren't going to win the game, so we might as well just try something new. But yet we didn't. We played 3 in midfield. Kante I thought did okay. Kovacic, it wasn't a good game from him. Barkley was absolutely useless, no point of him being there. We got popped around in midfield quite comfortably by Goretzka, Thiago and Muller when he came in as well. And even Kimmich, to be fair, who's obviously found himself playing right back, but has obviously wandered inside on a handful of occasions as well. We just got popped around. It was absolutely ridiculous. We played 3 at the back against obviously Arsenal, against Man United, against Wolves. Handful of opposition we played 3 at the back, and I'll be honest with you, I prefer a 4-3-3. So I'm kind of happy that we did play a 4-3-3. But with the personnel that we used last night, it just should not have been a 4-3-3. We have 2 wide fullbacks who like to go forward, we have 4 centre-halves that are ready to go and play, and we had 2 proper central midfielders. Barkley was used in an attacking role and did absolutely nothing. Callum Hudson-Odoi and Mount, they had pushed wide. Obviously Callum Hudson-Odoi is always going to be out there. Mount maybe should have been brought back in. Whatever. It ain't right. It's not right at all. And again, it's as long as you accept that it's not okay, that it's actually okay. You just need to be able to accept it now before you do it so many months down the line. Now, I think Chelsea are going to play a 4-3-3 next season under Lamps, and I think that the people that he's going to bring in, the Kai Havertz deal, kind of that calibre stuff, he's going to play on the right or the left-hand side of the midfield 3. With Kovacic or Mount or Kante or whoever it is in that midfield 3, I don't see Jorginho being part of the team next year, I have to be honest. I don't see Barkley being part of the team next year, I have to be honest. There just needs to be a lot more competition in that midfield central role, because everyone's going, oh, we need to sign Declan Rice, we need to go and sign Partey, I've heard as well. We need to go and sign this person, that person in the midfield options. Fine, but we need to work out what formation we're actually playing. Because if I'm going to say, oh yeah, let's go and sign Declan Rice, but we've got Kante and Kovacic that are always going to play ahead of him, is actually he the right person to bring in? We've also got Billy Gilmore. I think a lot of people are trying to treat this like FIFA. And it don't work like that. It don't work like that at all. It's not, oh, let's sign him and then we'll figure it out later. It needs to be, you sign him for a reason. You're signing him to play on the left-hand side of the midfield. You're signing him to play on the right-hand side of the midfield. People are saying that Ziyech prefers to play in behind the striker. And as much as I do agree with that, I think, yeah, that could probably be a great place for him. He has to play wide on the right-hand side. You're going to have Pulisic on the left-hand side, Werner up front, and Ziyech on the right-hand side, which is a great front three. But you also Callum Hudson-Odoi, to be fair to him, did all right last night. Obviously, he got his goal disallowed. He did okay last night. You've then got talent all over the pitch going forward. Defence, we need a whole overhaul. We understand that. We appreciate that. But we can get the midfield right, and you've got 2/3 of the pitch sorted. Then you start to see a bit more development and a bit more improvement. There needs to be a bit more defensive midfield structure for me, because it was like Barkley and Kovacic both like to go forward. Kante was playing that pivot role and I thought he did okay. Not a captain, by the way. As much as I love Kante, he's not captain material. He just doesn't shout and scream enough and be a leader in that sense. He's a leader by just playing the game, which is not what you need in a captain, unfortunately. You do need people to be vocal and present and everything. But we need a bit more defensive stability in midfield, something that we know and something that we can trust week in, week out. At least when you have Jorginho playing there, you know he's going to be the one there. He's going to pass the ball around and that's going to be it. And as much as I don't like him, you respect it because that's what we're going to do. Chelsea have no idea what we're going to play in midfield yet. Absolutely no idea what we're going to play in midfield. For me, it will probably be Kante, Kovacic and Havertz. Let Havertz and Mount fight over it, to be honest. And then after a while, depending on Kai Havertz or Mason Mount wins, Kovacic and Kai Havertz, or Kovacic and Mason Mount. Let them fight over it. But Kante, for me, needs to be the steady part of the midfield, the anchor, as it is, if you want to call it that. There's just things that need to change. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't even be against playing a slightly more traditional 4-2-3-1 and having 2 defensive players. If that's the case, then it's got to be Kovacic and Kante. We just don't know what we're doing in midfield. We've got absolutely no idea what we're doing in midfield, and that showed in the formation last night. The fact that you have a midfield problem and you still choose to place 3 centre midfielders, I'm going to include 4 in Mason Mount, where we still had a midfield problem when we had 4 centre halves. 2 of them were sitting there doing absolutely nothing. Even after a while, you could have changed it up or something. I don't know. It just shows a lot to me that how much Frank trusts Rudiger and even Tomori on the bench. To be fair, I don't think he trusts Christensen either. It just shows a lot about how he trusts them and how he thinks things are going to work next season. I think we're going to be playing a 4-3-3. I don't think Frank likes playing 3 or 5 at the back. So there we are, that's my 5 things we've learned. It's a bit of a weird video this, I appreciate you for watching it. It's the last one we're going to be doing for a while, of course, with Chelsea, end of the season. Overall, I think it's been a good year. As I said, we're still in the top 4. That was obviously the main goal and main priority. We knew the game last night was over before a ball was even kicked. We could have potentially got a result there, but to win and go through would have been absolutely stupid. And I'll have to be honest with you, we've now got a reduced amount of time to get ready for the Premier League season. If we'd have gone further in the Champions League, it just could have been more of a nightmare for us. So part of me, again, like this sounds terrible, part of me is actually happy we've gone out. I must be honest. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you're new around here, make sure you like, share and subscribe. I'll see you back here for loads more Chelsea content, and yeah, it wasn't a good night. It wasn't a good night at all. But we go again, and we just got to realise there was problems last night, but just get them sorted, especially ahead of the new season. Take care, stay safe, up the Chelsea. I'll see you back here for loads more Chelsea content.